Welcome to the Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. A vaccine mandate is on the table. While the White House won't impose a nationwide mandate, it supports mandatory vaccines at the local level. But one gratifying thing to see is Biden not taking the CCP's advice. The administration approved its first arms sale to Taiwan. The Senate is debating the excessively long infrastructure bill. A key vote is set for Saturday, but will senators have enough time to scrutinize everything? Books have changed enormously in the past century. Do you know what books your children read? Do you want to find good, nurturing books for them? Then I'll tell you the story of Jenny Phillips. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look at this week's highlights together. In April, the White House made it clear that the administration won't require Americans to carry proof of vaccination to travel and attend events. Listen to what Jen Psaki had to say. The government is not now, nor will be supporting a system that requires Americans to carry a credential. It appears what the Biden administration doesn't want is the liability and burden of implementing a nationwide vaccine mandate. None of the vaccines have been fully approved by the FDA, yet the administration is willing to see local governments issue mandates. The White House has announced it supports New York City's new vaccination requirements. Starting in mid-September, gyms, restaurants, and theaters can't allow unvaccinated individuals inside. The goal is clear. The city wants more New Yorkers to get vaccinated. And to deploy a vaccination mandate, the use of a vaccine passport-like system is inevitable. New Yorkers now have a few options to prove their vaccine status. They can use the state's Excelsior Pass, the city's vaccine pass, or a paper issued by the CDC. Can the White House say it supports the city's vaccine mandate, but it doesn't support a vaccine passport at the same time? That's not possible. Even though many of us know that Dr. Anthony Fauci is not credible, he is the director of the NIAID and the president's chief medical advisor. So Fauci still enjoys some power, and there are people listening to him. On Tuesday, the doctor said, "To get to the 93 million unvaccinated people, we are going to need local mandates." He also warned when the FDA grants its final approval to the COVID-19 vaccines, we're going to see more universities and businesses mandate the shot. Before, the doctor was saying 70% vaccination rate would reach herd immunity. Now he's saying he wants to see as many as 90% of American adults vaccinated against the virus. As one can imagine, this goal is unachievable without mandates. COVID-19 vaccines currently are unavailable for children under 12, but Pfizer is expecting data from 5 to 11-year-old children of an ongoing test. Data for children 2 to 5 years old could arrive soon after that. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy said this week that emergency use authorization of vaccines for children under 12 is expected during the upcoming school year. Yet many experts question whether vaccination on young children is necessary. The probability of disease or death from COVID on children is extremely low. A new study from the UK released in July shows the mortality rate among people under 18 in the UK is about 0.002% or less. And to date, the U.S. has had fewer than 400 deaths involving COVID-19 in the under 18 age group, according to the CDC. Parents, you really need to do your own research before making a decision for your children. This week, Representative Michael McCaul from the House Foreign Affairs Committee released an update report on the Republican probe of COVID-19 origins. McCaul said it's time to completely dismiss the wet market as the source of the pandemic, as their new report reveals. A preponderance of the evidence proves that all roads lead to the Wuhan Institution of Virology. The report detailed new evidence supporting the lab leak theory. In July 2019, one campus of the Virology Institute had an unusual overhaul project of its waste treatment system. On September 12th, a public database of samples and virus sequences from the lab was taken offline with no explanation. Even though the CCP reported the first COVID-19 case in December 2019, patient 0 was likely infected between September and October. During that time, 5 of the 6 hospitals adjacent to the WIV experienced the highest parking lot occupancy in a 2-year period, suggesting more people were getting sick. Yet the CCP's effort to cover up the outbreak was astounding. The report has a lot of information. We won't elaborate here, but I've attached a link to the report below for you to check out. Set aside how the pandemic ever started, the CCP must be held accountable for its cover-up. For this very reason, many countries are reassessing their relationship with the communist regime. So is the Biden administration. On August 4th, the administration approved its first arms sale of $750 million to Taiwan, a move that's bound to infuriate the CCP. In March, the CCP's top diplomat warned the Biden administration to reverse former President Trump's, quote, dangerous support of Taiwan. The Trump administration approved a $600 million weapons sale to the island in November, and the CCP shouted the U.S. must stop such arms sales to avoid further damage to China-U.S. relations and peace in the Taiwan Strait. Apparently, the Biden administration didn't heed that advice. Now, we should acknowledge any administration that confronts the CCP. Only there should be more of it. The Biden administration should demand CCP's accountability for the pandemic on behalf of all the American people. On Thursday, Biden signed an executive order to target half of all vehicles sold in the U.S. to be zero emissions by 2030. The move is part of a series of actions Biden announced aimed at jump-starting a dramatic shift to electric vehicles. EV is on the list of the administration's broader agenda to tackle climate change. Although electric cars don't emit greenhouse gases and don't have exhaust, they have their own polluting problems. Notably, their batteries contain components such as lithium and nickel that require a significant amount of resources to source and extract. The production of these elements could cause more environmental damage than carbon emissions alone. We'll cover this in a future episode. The White House said the announcement would put the country on track to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from new vehicle sales by 60% in 2030. General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler's parent company, Stellantis NV, have endorsed Biden's zero-emission goal. They said in a joint statement that they hope to achieve sales of 40 to 50% of the annual volume of fully electric or hybrid vehicles in the U.S. by the target year. But the goal can only be met with more government investment in charging stations and other infrastructure. Ahead, we have an update on the proposed infrastructure bill, and have you had a good look at what your children are reading? But before we continue, I just want to say thank you for everyone's continued support. With censorship being extremely inundating, it's more important than ever that every one of you takes the time to share this video so we can keep our friends and families informed with truthful information. You can also help the Eye Opener team with our mission to deliver truthful news by donating to the show or by purchasing a mug that matters. You can find the link in the description below, and your support, as always, is greatly appreciated. Salute. The Senate is currently debating the bipartisan 2,700-page infrastructure bill. To no one's surprise, there have been hundreds of amendments offered to the enormous bill, but there won't be time to consider all of them. Late Thursday, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer arranged a key vote for Saturday. Democrats are seeking to end the debate quickly so that they can move on to the partisan $3.5 trillion reconciliation package as soon as possible. Senator Mitch McConnell warned Schumer not to rush the legislation process of this magnitude. He was suggesting his Democratic colleagues are choking off full consideration of the bill by an artificial timetable penciled out for political purposes. Only 22 amendments have been considered so far, with half of them coming from the Republican side. Good books have long-lasting impact. The time in your life that you probably read the most is when you're still in school. For most people, we have more free time in childhood and adolescence to read, and our understanding of life as a child is pretty limited. But as children, we can learn things that we haven't experienced or couldn't experience from books. The worldview we held and the moral values we learned at a young age affect us for a lifetime. We need to come to terms with the fact that the types of books our children have access to have skewed drastically from what we read when we were young. In fact, books have changed for the darker in the past century. If you're not quite sure what your children are reading, or if you want to find good nurturing books for your children to read, the story of Jenny Phillips will help you tremendously. Phillips is the founder of The Good and the Beautiful, a homeschool curriculum company. In addition to homeschool resources, the company offers families a list and a library of wholesome books from the late 1800s to modern times. The company puts books into three categories: good and beautiful books, roller coaster books, and unworthy books. So what are good and beautiful books? Phillips said that they are honest, pure, lovely, virtuous, and praiseworthy. However, Hunting for good and beautiful books wasn't easy. About 11 years ago, when her 9-year-old daughter Kate arrived home from school one day, Jenny was waiting on the porch with a home-baked snack for her. She was excited to see Kate. Kate was with her friend, so she asked her mom, "Hey, can I go play with my friend?" Jenny said, "Sure, but why don't you come in and we'll have some family time first?" But when her daughter mocked her suggestion, Phillips was devastated. Kate and her friend looked at each other and just rolled their eyes. The daughter said, "Family time? I don't need family time," and walked away. Baffled by where this attitude had come from, Jenny considered all possible causes of her daughter's rudeness. She said they were a good, loving family that prayed. They weren't perfect, but they were trying hard to teach their children good character. They had also realized a long time ago the impact of inappropriate movies, TV, and music on their children's hearts and minds. The family only allowed appropriate media, but figuring out where the rudeness had come from, well, she didn't have a clue. That night, Jenny was cleaning up Kate's bedroom. She picked up one of her books and read a sentence where the main character was making fun of her mother. She was surprised and started reading the books her daughter checked out from school. They all had cute covers. She recalled, "I quickly felt sick to my stomach. The books were packed with everything we were trying to teach her to avoid." Jenny's major in college was English. She quickly recognized the books her daughter was reading were all quick read, fast-paced, and of low literary merit. She was sad to see that Kate had no appreciation or desire for truly good literature. Phillips said, rude behaviors were in literally every book of hers that she had been reading. Determined to reverse the direction Kate was heading in, Jenny started to pre-read every single book Kate brought home from school. You probably guessed it, not a single one was appropriate. Phillips had to search to find good books for her daughter. It was that search that eventually led Phillips to create and publish a book list and a library of wholesome books. The library consists of hundreds of classic books that were previously out of print but now published by the good and the beautiful, as well as many new original books. But Kate's appreciation for good and beautiful books didn't come easy. She refused to read the books Jenny picked out for her, saying they were so boring and dumb. To get her to read only good books, Jenny paid Kate to read. Later realizing their daughter's school's teacher was reading disrespectful books aloud in class, Jenny and her husband pulled Kate out of school and started homeschooling. 2 years down the road, their persistence finally paid off. Kate started loving the good books she read and got to the point that for Christmas, she was asking for old, beautiful books from the late 1800s that she was collecting. Jenny said, wholesome books filled her mind and turned her heart to love, nature, learning, family, and well-written wholesome literature. After seeing how reading only books with moral merit completely changed Kate for the better, Jenny was inspired to help others find the path. She created the free book list and launched the Good and the Beautiful homeschool curriculum, which emphasizes family, God, high character, nature, and wholesome literature. During her journey, Phillips also learned how incredibly morally deteriorated books had become, which had started 2 centuries ago.
A study of 4th grade readers that spanned a 140-year time period is eye-opening. They took readers from 1810 to 1950 and evaluated how many pages out of 25 emphasized a moral lesson, and the change over time is dramatic. In 1810, 16.01 pages out of 25 emphasized a moral lesson. In 1850, that dropped to 12.42 pages. In 1890, 4.19. In 1930, 1 page. In 1950, 0.06 pages out of 25 emphasized a moral lesson.
If in 1950, only a quarter of the page of 100 pages emphasized moral lessons, can you imagine what today's books are like? I encourage you to get to know what your children are reading and find the answer yourself. The study of 4th grade readers is from her video, Be Brave About Books. In the video, Jenny uses examples to show how most modern books negatively affect our children. You can find the video in the description. It's worth watching. If you're thinking of taking the plunge with your child into the world of good and beautiful books, Jenny has some advice for you. The first step is to remove all inappropriate books. Children need to be immersed in only good books for so long that they are no longer desensitized. This can take years for some children. Over time, immersed in powerful, clean books, children will have the ability to discern for themselves because they are no longer insensitive to rude and shallow behavior. You will have to help them along until they get to that point. Persistence is key. Don't freak out when your children say, "These books are boring." It's to be expected. That is because they are used to books that are fast-paced and all about the thrill. Give them time. The power of good books will work its wonders on your child if you persist long enough. It's worth the effort to guide children to appreciate good books. If they have not been desensitized by loads of rude behavior in books and media, Jenny says children actually have an amazing ability to discern what is appropriate and what is not. When it gets to that point, children will start searching for the good and the beautiful on their own. And let me leave you with food for thought from Euripides. Nothing is hopeless. We must hope for everything. And that's it for today, my friends. Check out this playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me in the Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on YouMaker, Gab, Parler, and Getter. I'd like to thank you all and have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next time.